Hello again, and welcome to another Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill.
And we're going East Coast, West Coast today. And we're going to start with the dreaded AFC East.
Okay, Patriots are going to win division next.
Well, we know the Jets are going to be terrible. The Jets have...
It is consistently the worst division in any pro sports print. It hasn't been competitive for forever.
No, and
it's
even
so
when...
disappointing. I mean, they don't even qualify somebody for a wild card.
No,
it's just not a good division.
No, it's really, really sad. I'd have to say I don't see the Jets have no quarterback. You can't win without a quarterback.
Yeah.
They don't seem to have any playmakers on the outside. They have a few nice pieces on defense, but half of them are disgruntled and want to be traded. I think easily the Jets are the worst team in that division, maybe the worst team in the NFL.
I agree. They're going to finish. They're going to be picking either 1, 2, or if they have a miracle year, 3 in the draft.
Right. I think to me the Bills were going to finish third in this division, but after the injury, the Tannehill injury, which might be replaced by Cutler, which is terrible. I think the Dolphins may be coming third in this division.
You know what? I like the coaching staff on the Dolphins enough, and I like what they've done on defense. I'm still going to think the Dolphins are going to finish second. And I'm even going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that if they sign Kaepernick, I think he has a decent year, and they do no worse than 9-7, probably 10-6.
I see. Honestly, even before
I still see the quarterback position for the Bills. I just haven't seen it for years. I just don't understand it.
Well, they still have Tyrod Taylor.
Yes, they do, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, quarterback's a hard position to fill in the NFL. But, I mean, you also have Shady McCoy. They've had some trouble, too. With they drafted Sammy Watkins, who everybody thought was just the next great, Julio Jones, Antonio Brown level wide receiver. And he hasn't been able to stay on the field. And as of yet, they've bothered not even pick up his fifth-year option at this point. So that's how good he's been for them.
Yeah, I know. I expected so much more when they picked him.
I think he was, arguably they talked about as the best player in the draft. And you saw it at Clemson.
Again, I'm going to go back to the quarterback. And I'm saying he still could be a great receiver, but maybe he just can't get the ball.
Well, he also
can't
stand
stay on the field. That's part of the problem. But when he's on the field, he's not getting the ball that much.
No, but he has the dreaded foot injury, too, the LASIX.
Yeah, that's a bad thing.
And that's just, once you get into that foot, I don't know, you're just done. It's really sad.
It's the thing that kills everybody. I mean, it's too many bones, too many pressures, too many different movements. That once you start messing with the structure of the foot, then that's all there is.
And again, as you have bigger, faster, stronger, it's so much more weight and pressure on that foot.
No doubt.
And but I have a little bit of faith in Shady McCoy and the Bills and their defense. I think they're going to come in second, especially with the Cutler injury.
Okay.
And then obviously the top
brings us to the Patriots, and the question is, are they going to go 16-0?
They very well could, because not only they're the one team that if Brady goes down, Garoppolo's really pretty good. And that offense is just a juggernaut. They got better. They traded for Brandon Cooks. They have everybody coming back, including Gronkowski. And then you add Brandon Cooks to the outside to stretch the field. And I'm sure Mike Gillislee, who they, scooped up from the Bills as a restricted free agent at running back, I'm sure he's going to come out, and I don't know, destroy the NFL somehow.
They're a juggernaut unless, I don't think Gronk stays on the field for 16 games again. I think he's had too many injuries. I think he gets dinged again. I think the other one probably gets dinged somewhere along the line. And I think Brady's probably unless they discover what kryptonite is, Brady will stay on the field for 16 games and have a miracle year again.
I know. I think if you're a non-Patriot fan, you keep wanting to shout out, no quarterback over 40, and, come up with whatever stat after that. But as people have pointed out, Belichick, is a cheater and probably has a deal with the devil. But having said that, he's an amazing coach. And
he is, and I mean, they'll make some modifications. But Brady, I mean, what he's willing to do to be able to stay on the field and play is beyond what most people would do.
yeah, and I know. I mean,
that diet. No way.
he goes to bed at 9 o'clock at night.
He knows what he needs to do, and he does it. And I respect that. And that he is the GOAT. There's no question about it. I just don't like him.
No.
But they're going to win that division.
Oh, they're going to win that division. And again, like you said, 16-0 is on the table for that team. Because you look, I think we pointed out, especially with the Tannehill injury, that's 6-0 right there. Just done.
Well, all I know is in October, I think it's October 5th, the Patriots play at Tampa, and I hope it's ridiculously hot and nasty for that Thursday night game. And I hope the Bucs can do something.
I think they've got a shot. As we discussed, they've got a lot of talent on that team. And you got to figure out this would be the year that, Winston sort of makes that leap. Is he going to be an elite quarterback or just a solid starter? This is year 3, so hopefully. And again, they just seem to get all the breaks in the world, the Patriots. And don't forget they also...
Yeah, let's quit talking about them.
All right.
Let's go AFC West.
Let's go AFC West. This division is just a cluster F to me. With San Diego, KC, Denver, and Oakland. Obviously Oakland is the favorite. Based on what they did last year. You got the Khalil Mack-led defense. And assuming Derek Carr is back and healthy, a Derek Carr-led offense with, some pretty solid weapons on that team and a really good offensive line. But
I think they're a prohibitive favorite to win. I think they're strong. They are really, really good. And I don't think this move or anything like that is going to be a distraction. I think they're well coached. I think they've got mature players. And I think they're going to play well.
The team I think will finish last is the team that just seems to be snake bit every year. Already with their first round pick needing probably season-ending back surgery, and that's the San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
I think they lost. They lost their first and second round.
Playing in a soccer stadium with 30,000 people.
They lost their first round pick and their second round pick to injuries for the year already. They just, I don't know. They need a new training staff for sure because they seem to just be riddled with injuries year after year. And they have a terrible fan base. I mean, no offense.
They're a cluster on and off the field. Their business side is a mess as well.
I mean, honestly, the best.
A lot of remodeling now to try and compete in LA, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I don't like. They'll probably be one of my business moments sometime during football season because they're a mess.
And in a bad way. They have those awesome powder blue uniforms, though.
I would have gone back to the powder blue. Moved back to LA, I would wear the uniforms that they wore in LA. I would go powder blue with a white helmet and just have that be who I would be.
I was surprised they didn't because their base uniform, it's just pretty generic.
It is, but I was in this old-time sporting goods store in San Diego. All right, real old school.
Mm-hmm.
They had all those old Nike posters. They had like the Air Coryell poster when they had the lightning bolt down the side of the pants.
Yeah.
Those were incredible. Those were great unis.
Well, that brings us to the middle of the division where we have the Chiefs and Denver. Now, the Chiefs, if you watch what they did in the draft, they moved up 20 spots to get Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So I think that tells you a lot about where the Chiefs think they are. Which is just treading water, which I think is all you can ever do with Alex Smith as your quarterback, which they're going to have again this year. You can't win a big game with Alex Smith. Dinking and dunking.
But I like Mahomes. Mahomes is like a mad bomber.
He is a mad bomber.
I love it. He's putting up 400 or 500 yards every week.
He seems fearless. He's got an absolute cannon for an arm.
I know. I thought it was a great pick, and they could take their time with him. But I think he could see the field this year.
He could. I think you don't want him seeing the field before week 10, week 11.
No, you do not. But I think they will finish. I think they'll finish second. I think they'll probably be a wild card.
You have that much faith in KC, huh? I mean, they do have obviously the wife beater and Tyreek Hill, and some other weapons on offense.
He's a game changer, and you know what? Andy Reid is one of those guys. Say what you want to say, but he's competitive every year. He puts a good team on the field, does
true. And their defense, they have played like guys like Eric Berry. This corner name is escaping right now. I had it written down. I can't find it. It's somewhere in my notes. But despite their DVOA and some of their advanced stats and everything else, like their defense makes a lot of big plays. I think they have the most pick sixes. Like they give up a lot, but they also their gambling pays off more than I think a lot of teams do. And I think the numbers don't really.
They lost their secret weapon on the goal line, Dontari Pope.
It's true, but I think they'll be able to figure that out.
Yeah.
And that basically leaves us with the Denver Broncos, who I don't even know what to say about them. But the Broncos are, the defense is probably going to take a step back a little bit. They're all getting older.
They're all getting older, and they haven't cracked that quarterback code yet.
No, Von Miller says that 30 sacks in a season is doable, and if there's a guy in the league that can do it this year, it probably is him. Especially with the number of
drops. Finish anywhere but 30. You better get 30 sacks.
Yeah, because it sounds like you've got almost an Alex Smith situation again, where I think Trevor Siemian is a very solid guy, but I don't think you can win big with him.
No.
And Paxton Lynch is a giant man that I wasn't sold on him in college, and I'm not sold on him now, but apparently he's playing well. I mean, just like everybody is playing well in camp. To give the fan bases hope, he's playing well in camp.
Hey, everybody plays well in camp when there's a red jersey and you can't hit them.
It's true. But, I mean, you still have, Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders on the outside. You've got it. Again, it's that whole division, I think, outside of Oakland, is the only team I see that could really do some damage if they step up and become better than they were. But the other three teams, it just, put them in a hat, pull them out, and I think you can. We dissed San Diego pretty hard. But, yeah.
I mean, Philip Rivers will put up ridiculous numbers, but they won't win anything.
No. And Melvin Gordon looked good for them too in the backfield.
Yep.
So I guess based on our thing, we're gonna fly back to the East Coast and go to. I think this is the division I had the most trouble trying to figure out, and that's the NFC East.
It's a hard division to figure out.
I mean, I think, the chalk would say that, Dallas, they won the division last year. You got Dak Prescott coming into his second year, Ezekiel Elliott coming into his second year. The best offensive line in football. One of. But I think you have to wonder, again, I try not to look at too much of the advanced stat stuff because I'm not a huge fan of it. Because some of it seems a little, whatever. Mm-hmm. But they felt that Dak Prescott got a little bit lucky last year, where he had some picks that, he was very low in the picks that should have been caught category. A lot of, bad throws that were dropped on his, so that even if he regresses, it won't necessarily be a negative towards his future as a quarterback. But that, based on as well as he played last year, he's going to regress a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think I thought he played out of his mind last year.
He played incredible last year. Ezekiel Elliott will probably just be going to miss a little bit of time, I would hope.
I would think. But, Jerry Jones exerts a lot of influence.
He does, but I think the league being where it's at right now, I don't think he can. I mean, he's got to be gone for at least 2 games, I think. If you suspend Le'Veon Bell 4 games for weed, I think, a number of domestic violence issues have got to get you at least 4.
I can predict he gets 2.
Right. Well, you give him 4, he appeals, he gets 2.
Yep.
You still obviously has Dez Bryant on the outside and Cole Beasley, and somehow Jason Witten is still kicking.
He's amazing. I mean, I got to give him his due. He is a competitor year in, year out.
He is.
He never really gets hurt.
No.
Big time. But, I mean, he's a consistent player year in, year out.
He honestly reminds me a lot of, one of my favorite tight ends of all time, Pittsburgh Steelers, Heath Miller.
He does. There's a lot of similarities there.
He's a true tight end that can block in line.
A lot more ball. He's much more a target for the quarterback.
Certainly.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have to go with Dallas winning the division. I just don't see them not winning the division.
No, I really like the Eagles. I thought they had a great defense last year. I think that defense is coming.
Carson Wentz with another year under his belt.
Carson Wentz another year under his belt. They added Alshon Jeffrey, and a few other weapons on the outside to try and give him people to throw to. Because I mean, as much as he regressed, he didn't really have any weapons. I mean, Nelson Aguilar was their first round pick, and he was pretty much a bust last year. They just didn't have anybody to throw to. Nobody scary. And if Alshon Jeffrey can stay healthy, and obviously whenever you use that phrase, can he stay healthy, it's never a good thing. But if he can stay healthy, he's a big-time target. And he's a quarterback, he's a big 6'3" player that'll fight for the ball. And he's a great red zone target. Zach Ertz, a tight end, is very solid. I think they have a good coach. That's a team I think I could see them winning the division, let alone coming in second. But I'd pick them no less than second. I have the Giants in third place.
I don't know who's going to finish second. The Eagles. I can see the Eagles finish second. I can see the Giants finish second. I probably can't see the Redskins finish second.
No, the Redskins seem like they're just a mess. The quarterback doesn't want to be there. They don't seem to like him that much, but they don't want to let him go. It's a very weird situation.
Right. The owner's a train wreck.
The owner's a train wreck. It's
tough to see where the team goes.
It's tough too because the problem with them is over the last they've made some. Obviously they lost Garcon and Deshaun Jackson last year, and then they brought in Pryor and Dotson, the rookie from last year. So you hope that they can match the production. Although Garcon and Deshaun Jackson are just outstanding players that are probably well underrated over the course of their careers and are going to be really hard to replace.
And Terrell Pryor's a nice player, but I would rather have either of the other two over him.
Oh, without a doubt. And I know they say that Dotson has, he's like a younger Deshaun Jackson, but lots of people are named younger this and younger that, and until they prove it on the field, they're just simply not. And Deshaun Jackson, I think, has proven it beyond a shadow of a doubt what a great weapon he can be. But, I mean, like I said, on the one hand, they've made some very shrewd moves, and they've made some very questionable moves, and then obviously the whole Kirk Cousins fiasco. I'd have to see them coming in last place, which would leave us in third place with either, the last team we haven't talked about is the New York Giants, with Eli Manning and the man that wants to be the highest paid player in all of football, Odell Beckham Jr.
And I think they usually end up with a better record than they are every year.
Yeah.
I just don't. I'm never that impressed with them, and yet they're always in it down to the last couple weeks of the season.
Well, you do have Odell Beckham, who was in that category. I mean, he did not play well in the playoffs. He dropped a lot of easy balls. Mm-hmm. That if you're the superstar, you can't have that happen. But in the regular season, I mean, he's a home run waiting to happen every play. He takes those slants and he just takes off. And, whenever you have a game changer on offense, it opens it up for every other guy. And then you added Everett, the tight end in the draft, who ran like a 4.40. And you've got some other quick receivers out there. Of course, the issue is you have Eli Manning throwing them the football. And
he is really my Jekyll and Hyde.
He's completely a Jekyll and Hyde.
I mean, he'll have games where he can't miss, and he'll have games where he can't complete anything. And he's on or off. He's just never in between.
No.
But the result is kind of in between. And it's kind of just. I know he's won 2 Super Bowls, but a little miraculous there.
I know, and I think because of who they beat in those 2 Super Bowls and the circumstances in which they did it, it makes me sort of oddly like him.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, he's a train. You would never want. I mean, you never want him as your fantasy quarterback.
No.
And you wouldn't want him in your team because one minute you love him, the next minute you hate him. And I think a little bit like we've seen with Ben and Phil, who came in the same draft. They've had more down spots than up spots each year in each progressive year, as they're both getting in their late 30s. All 3 of those guys. And I think with Manny, you see it, whatever it is that, father time or boredom, whatever happens to him, but he's had more and more bad games each year. 2 more, I guess, Hyde, as opposed to Jekyll.
So I'm going to go Dallas, Philly, New York, Washington.
Well, I'm going to go with my other pick, and I'm going to go Philly, Dallas, New York, Washington. I like the
So
Eagles.
let's go west.
Let's go west. This is another. I mean, I think you have two clear bottom teams. San Francisco is going to be bad. They just are.
They're going to be bad, but I like Lynch. I like Lynch.
No, San Francisco's
I
think
think they're going to be bad, but I think they're going to surprise people. I think they'll be as good, if not better, than the Rams.
Well, I think they're going to be exactly what you want in a young team. They're going to be good enough that if you're a fan base, you're watching them and you have hope. You're seeing young guys go out there and make plays, and you're like, I'm excited. You know, like in a couple years, I like the way this guy looks. I like the way that guy looks. All we need is quarterback. And this is a good draft to get quarterbacks in, and it's a good draft to be. It's a good season to be competitive all year, but not really win, which is what I think they're going to be.
Okay.
But I don't like with the Jets. I feel like there's a sense of hopelessness. Whereas if the 49ers, I feel like there's a sense of hope. Like we've got this ship, we're turning it around, and something good could happen. The Rams, of
I don't
LA.
think Goff could be as bad as he was last year.
Well, the fact that there's stories coming out about that 6'8" kid out of Oregon State looking really good in preseason probably isn't also good for Goff, who's their backup quarterback. If you have a young quarterback, you don't want to be hearing about the other young backup.
No, that's exactly what you don't want to hear happen. Not good for your confidence, not good for the fan base, not good for the team to have two choices.
No, and he looked as bad as a quarterback can look.
I agree. He looked like he had no business belonging. He looked like, why would you take this guy who's number one?
No, it looked like one of the worst. I mean, because we've seen some bad quarterbacks come out, and he looked as bad as any of them.
Yeah.
Just horrible. And I know people like to point out that, again, who's he going to throw to? Tavon Austin and, some other people, but it wouldn't matter who. He couldn't hit them last year. He wasn't diagnosing plays quickly. He just looked really, really bad. And obviously there's
I tell you what, if he has another bad year and they finish bad and they get a shot at the Southern Cal quarterback playing in your home market, I wouldn't be surprised if they draft another quarterback number 1 or number 2 or number 3 whenever they're picking next year.
If you're picking in the top 10, it means you need a quarterback.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unless you took one the year before and he looked great and you're happy with him, but again, I think if you're in the top 10, you're thinking quarterback no matter when you picked a quarterback last, if you got a chance to do better. Because you always hear those people, the great sort of GMs always say that, don't pass up somebody you think could be better than a guy you got just because you took one last year. Like, even if you use the number 1 overall pick on, Jared Goff last year, but this guy looks better than Jared Goff, and that's the quarterback you take. Because it's your job on the line. You're not worried about, you can't win without a quarterback. So.
No.
And I mean, Todd Gurley was terrible last year.
Does it bring us to Arizona now?
I think it brings us to the Cardinals with the oldest ginger in the world at quarterback. And
say what you will. I mean, he's a good quarterback. He's just not the guy that's going to take you.
No.
He's too old. He had some major injuries. And it's just not going to happen.
It is not going to happen. And they still have a few fatal flaws. They're getting older on. I mean, you have David Johnson in the backfield, who is like the NFC's Le'Veon Bell. He can catch, he can block, he can run. He's fantastic. You still have Fitzgerald, who's, an ageless wonder at wide receiver, moved to the slot, put up over 100 catches last year. You got good guys on the outside, but again, you're stuck with Carson Palmer, and I don't know how far he can take you. On defense, you're still looking at who am I going to have, I got Patrick Peterson and obviously the Honey Badger out there, but I have nobody on the other side. And they picked on the other corner last year, and the guy they signed from the Browns of all teams this year to be the starter, Trayvon Williams, he got picked on all last year. So unless somebody else steps up, the defense is once again going to have a couple of fatal flaws.
So once again, Seattle wins the division.
Despite the fact that they never want to draft an offensive lineman, and they'll go so far as to draft defensive linemen and decide they want to turn them into offensive linemen, because that seems to be somehow a better play than the other way around. Which makes no sense. But
unless you're Alejandro Villanueva.
But that takes years.
Yes.
you've still got the Legion of Boom. They just gave Cam Chance through a big contract extension. You still got Bobby Wagner. The defense is going to be the defense. You're playing in
Nobody's
an awesome.
holding out. They're all healthy.
Yeah, you're playing in an awesome stadium. It's really loud. Makes it very difficult on the offense. I like Russell Wilson. Not so much the
I like Russell Wilson as well.
I mean, he goes out there. He competes. I don't know about their weapons. Obviously, Marshawn Lynch, who we forgot to mention, is a Raider now.
Yeah, and we forgot that. I was going to ask you after we get done talking about the Seahawks. So save that. I want you to talk about Marshawn Lynch after we talk about the Seahawks. I like Russell Wilson. I like the coaching. I like the home field advantage. I like the discipline of the team. I like the camaraderie of the team. Solid.
And again, like the Patriots, you've got, probably at least 5 wins in your division. Maybe you go down to Arizona and drop one, but you shouldn't lose to the... I know the Rams play them well every year for some strange reason. It's that bad team that just somehow has Seattle's number. But they're going to be...
You're already figuring you won it, so you don't play hard, you don't play right. I don't know. But they'll be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't see 2 teams coming out of this division in the playoff stuff.
No. Arizona needs to reset a quarterback, and until that happens,
They do.
I think they're in 8-8, maybe 9-7 at best.
It's hard because he usually has a pretty good regular season. They play well till he gets hurt, and then you don't want to. You've got to come back and you come talk yourself into the fact that they're getting the playoffs again. So I don't know. But let's talk about Marshawn Lynch, because what do you think? Are we going to see the Marshawn Lynch we saw 2 years ago, or are we going to see a different Marshawn Lynch?
Well, I think as far as running style, I don't think there's such a thing as a different Marshawn Lynch. I mean, that's what makes him Marshawn Lynch. I think the Raiders were sure they were getting that guy, otherwise he wasn't going to come back. I think the big thing is how long can he be Marshawn Lynch? And how are they going to use him? They have a couple of other backs that are really good out there. I think if they use him a little bit like the Steelers used Bettis over the last couple of years, and, short yardage, obviously goal line, and then, save him more for, fourth quarter. When the defense is a little tired, you can just pound him in there. But I don't think you can give Marshawn Lynch, 20, 25 touches anymore. I mean, that's me. I mean, that's based on history and running backs and age and everything else. I think he's going to have to be a complement to your starter. Maybe like a one.
It's a nice piece to add to the Raiders.
It is. I mean, the Raiders, they slipped. Obviously, when Derek Carr got hurt last year, they went out of it. And their defense is pretty sloppy. Despite the fact they have Khalil Mack and a couple of other really exciting players, they're not a very solid unit, which is why they didn't really feel like a threat to the Patriots. But it would be nice to see them emerge as one, as we need a couple of those.
It would, and I'm kind of keep. They're the team in the AFC I'm going to keep my eye on this year. They're my team I want to watch the most in the AFC.
I think that's a good call because, like I said, I think there's a lot of questions with that team. And to see if they, were they just a young, kind of exciting team in a bad division that sort of rumbled up and then got a big injury, or are they legitimately building, something legit there? So,
in my NFC team to watch is the Buccaneers.
That makes sense.
2 picks that I think are both be playoff teams that I think are going to be fun to watch and very, very interesting teams this year.
I think the Eagles are the team to watch.
Okay.
And the AFC, I'm starting to buy into the Deshaun Watson hype. I mean, the Texans are so good on defense, and they have playmakers on offense. They just need a competent quarterback. And
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do this year.
And like I said, I know the stats that people like to throw out that Deshaun Watson threw 30 interceptions in his last 2 years of college, which I realize against college competition, that's an incredibly high number. And when you look at, advanced metrics and all those sort of stats, that number it's one of those red flags that's too many interceptions.
Let's end with some questions, Jason. I'm going to ask you the question. You give the answer for the fans.
All right.
In what week do we see Deshaun Watson on the field?
Week 1.
Week 1.
I just
as a starter or as a situational player?
as a starter. I think you know what you have in Tom Savage, and I think Tom Savage is it's the safe choice, but it's the safe choice that's going to lead you to be 8-8 or 9-7 and looking for a wild card. And I don't think you need the safe choice.
Okay, over under. Patrick McCombs plays in 6 games this year.
I think from what I've seen, and again, this is a lot based on reading other people's opinions. Obviously, way more qualified than me. I hope it's under.
Okay.
I think, like you said, the Chiefs are still a very solid team. And Alex Smith, I think, has been in this position before where he's, the guy that people want out. And I think he can handle it. And I think the Chiefs are going to be competing. And I think, the best thing for Mahomes is to be on the bench, learning, watching, biding his time, being angry, getting ready. But not this year.
All right, here's my last question for you.
Okay.
You have the number 1 pick in your fantasy draft. Who do you take?
I'm taking Antonio Brown.
Okay.
My answer it would be between Antonio Brown and David Johnson of the Cardinals.
Okay.
I want to say Le'Veon Bell, but I'm getting scared that he's really going to actually, miss a few games. Just because...
For stupidity or getting hurt?
Stupidity. And getting hurt. Well, he's going to miss 1 or 2 games for getting hurt because history shows us that every year he gets hurt. But I think this holdout, apparently they're very far apart, and I want to see how far they, And again...
There's nothing they can do. I mean, he's going to be the franchise tag. They can't negotiate anymore.
No, they can't, but he can sit out till, November if he wants to.
He's not going to do that. He's just not going to come. He's not going to come to camp before the second preseason game.
And I understand, why do you want to go run around in the heat? He's probably in great shape. He's ready to go.
We'll see.
But that's somewhat biased. Well, I'll flip that question to you as well. The fantasy football question.
If I had the number 1 fantasy player,
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking Lucifer Brady. I can't help it. I mean, if I pick my fantasy pick, that's who I'm taking.
I know. Well, my strategy last year was I took him because we played in an auction and he actually went pretty cheap. And just like Lucifer Brady would typically do, I outscored my league by almost 200 points, which is somewhat unprecedented. And then in the playoff game in the semifinals, he had the worst game of his season. And I lost by 2 points. And it's almost as if the Lucifer part knew what was going on. And he was ready to sabotage.
All right, you got any teasers for our next show in 2 weeks?
Well, I think we're going to have some exciting news in the NBA or something along those lines.
Okay.
And maybe, I'm sure we're going to have a bad preseason injury too. I hope we don't have one, but that's 2 weeks of preseason football and coaching. And one starter goes down in the NFL and it does change a lot of things. So I hope we're not talking about that, but I feel like we might be.
All right. Well, let's sign off. This is Bill Sutton.
And Jason Sutton.